In the depths of Georgia, the inhabitants of a small village tucked away in the middle of the Caucasus Mountains are warming up for an unusual event, a lelo match. A mixture of rugby and wrestling, this game is played with a 16-kilogram sand-filled ball. In a few minutes, the match will kick off. Thousands of spectators are waiting. For centuries, this game has been played once a year in this village at Orthodox Easter. Each year, the competition starts with a ritual. The village's Orthodox priest Saba blesses the ball with wine. The aim of the game is simple. The men from the village are split into two teams and go head-to-head in the middle of the street. And to win, unlike rugby, they must get the ball to a specific place on their side, which is decided before the game. Other than that, it's a free-for-all. In amongst this madness, it's difficult to keep an eye on the ball. Giwi, a member of the defending champion team, has had a good look but is struggling to find it. In the scrum, Mako, one of the leaders of the opposite team, is struggling to make his way through. In some places, the competition becomes a boxing match. Every year, some players end up in hospital. And 3 years ago, one even died from a heart attack. A team of paramedics try their best to help the first of the injured players. This man got away without any serious injuries in the end, but a few minutes later, another player is being taken care of by the paramedics. Despite the slaughter, the game continues on. They've been playing all day, and now the game has tipped in favor of Mako's opponents. His team has managed to get the ball onto their side. After 3 hours of battle, they win the game. Surprisingly, the after-party takes place around a buffet at a cemetery. The winners celebrate their victory here to pay tribute to their dead. That doesn't shock anyone here, as the community are big believers, but they're also quite lenient with their faith. And this isn't the only paradox that exists in this country. A 4.5-hour plane ride away from France, Georgia is a former USSR state that has recently turned a very liberal corner. No bigger than a single region in France, it borders Russia, but since their invasion of Ukraine, its 4 million inhabitants have turned their back on their neighbors to get closer to Europe.
Everything is set here. Home to Europe and never back to USSR. Never.
President Salomé Zourabichvili has even requested that her country become part of the European Union. It would be a dream for this Georgian, who spent her youth in exile in France.
La Géorgie, depuis toujours, ne voit de perspective dans cette région compliquée où elle se trouve qu'en Europe.
But this aim is being held back by the Kremlin's wishful imperial thinking. As in Ukraine, Vladimir Putin takes a dim view of his former satellite state getting closer to Europe and supports the pro-Russian population in Georgia. 2 Georgian regions have already seceded and declared their independence. And elsewhere in the country, a group of inhabitants are threatening to join them. This heinous speech aside, a swing towards Western values has made this country an enclave of freedom in a very unstable region. Georgia is also now a holiday destination for lots of people from Turkey and Iran who come to enjoy the Black Sea and the capital, Tbilisi. To boost the economy, authorities are trying to attract European workers who don't need a visa to come here.
Okay. 1, 2.
Here, not control, do what you want. Only in Georgia you make this fun.
As the country's main resource, tourism is a godsend for Georgians. Most of them still live in rural areas and follow very old traditions. Welcome to Georgia, a young liberal democracy torn between the East and the West and under threat from Russia. French people can enter Georgia without a visa. That's what first appealed to Jacques, who was originally from Paris. 3 years ago, he moved to the capital of Tbilisi, and he has no regrets as he was also surprised by the quality of life this town of more than 1 million inhabitants has to offer. This morning, he's off to get his bread from a local bakery, as he used to do in France.
Камаржобет. Хлеб готов? Свежий такой?
Горячий.
Ой, классно. Можно мне 2 свежих? Вау. Alors ça, c'est le meilleur pain du quartier.
Georgia is well known for its food. Here, the bread is made using a traditional method in these stone ovens.
Il décolle le pain du mur et je l'achète chaud. Ça fait 1000 ans qu'il prépare le pain comme ça. C'est 1 lari 20 le pain, c'est à peu près 30 cents.
30 euro cents, 4 times cheaper than in France.
Спасибо вам большое. До скоро.
On average, the cost of living in Georgia is 3 times cheaper than in France, which is an additional bonus for Jacques. At 47 years of age, this globetrotter has already lived in several countries and works in finance. He works for himself and manages his business over the internet, so it was relatively easy for him to move abroad.
On passe par les petites cours pour arriver à la maison. On est dans le vieux Tbilisi, qui est un quartier un petit peu délabré, mais qui est en train de se faire restaurer petit à petit. Très populaire auprès des touristes, parce que ça a beaucoup de charme.
In the past, Tbilisi has been invaded by the Persians, the Ottomans, and the Russians. Its architecture is therefore a mixture of all these cultures. Jacques lives in this slightly dilapidated building, which is typical in Caucasus, on the top floor with no lift.
C'est bon pour les jambes. Yeah.
In the Soviet era, the building was a state communal apartment building where several families lived.
Allez, salut.
Tiens,
Sortez du four.
Jacques bought a 110 square metered apartment for 110,000 euros and lives there with his Russian wife, Diana, and their pink-tailed dog.
Ici, c'est le salon. C'est un divan un peu oriental qu'on a peint dans le style local géorgien. Et ici, c'est un ancien balcon géorgien qui ici était vitré, mais c'est un balcon traditionnel. Tbilisi, c'est une ville qui, pour l'instant, n'est pas chère du tout. On est en plein centre de la capitale, de la vieille ville. Et aujourd'hui, le prix du mètre carré, c'est à peu près 1 000 €. Quand on compare à Paris, c'est 10 fois moins cher.
And what's more, Jacques pays very little in taxes. The rate here is fixed at 20% for everyone, whether you're poor or rich. For those who earn well, like Jacques, it's 2 times less than in France. This is a huge benefit, which has given him an idea.
Hop, comme ça. C'est bien?
C'est bien, parfait.
Un peu en dessus, au-dessus à droite?
C'est parfait.
C'est parfait. Donc ça, c'est le nom de notre nouveau petit business qui s'appelle Sololaki Lounge. Voilà.
He has bought the apartment next to his to transform it into a high-end guest house. He'll rent 3 rooms for 100 euros each per night.
Et on commence la journée de travail.
And he hasn't had any trouble starting his business.
La Géorgie demande pratiquement rien pour s'installer. Vous pouvez travailler, vous pouvez monter une entreprise, vous n'avez pas besoin de carte de séjour, vous n'avez pas besoin de permis de travail, vous n'avez besoin d'absolument rien. Donc c'est un pays, on peut dire, le plus libertaire au monde, où pratiquement tout est autorisé.
His investment should quickly become profitable, as Tbilisi has been fashionable for the past few years. There are plenty of bars and restaurants, and lots of old Soviet buildings have been renovated as trendy establishments, which fill up with tourists every summer. It's in one of these symbolic places at the highest point of the city that Jacques is meeting up with his friends to celebrate the opening of his guest house.
Oui, viens. Salut.
Around the table, he's joined by Georgians and other French expats like himself.
Alors les amis, c'est pas magnifique ça? Donc là on a tout Tbilisi devant nous. On est en haut du mont Tatsminda, qui veut dire la belle montagne, avec une vue sur toute la ville. Voilà.
The restaurant is renowned for serving the best khinkali in town. They're the national dish of Georgia, a giant dumpling that you only eat with your hands.
Khinkali pour tout le monde.
Si tu manges des khinkali avec couteau et fourchette, c'est mal vu.
Tu prends comme ça, tu fais. Tu te brûles la langue, tu te brûles complètement. Ça, c'est tellement bon, c'est incroyable, incroyable. Vive la Géorgie!
Jacques has fallen in love with this country and doesn't see himself going back to France. It must be said that in the past 20 years, this former Soviet republic has been completely transformed. Georgia has become the leading destination for millions of Russian, Turkish, and Iranian tourists hungry for the freedom they have here to totally let themselves go.
Bye. I'll see you later.
One of their favorite places to go is Batumi, on the coast of the Black Sea, the second largest city in the country. This ultra-modern seaside resort is known for its water sports and even more so for its 20-plus casinos. In France, owners of these establishments ban cameras, but here, gambling is less stigmatized. One of the casinos agrees to open its doors to us.
18 red lights number, place your bets.
Roulette, poker, slot machines. The establishment welcomes several tens of clients per day. Most come from Turkey, Iran, and even Israel, as there are no casinos in those countries. They're usually banned for religious reasons.
Thank you, no more bets. Thank you, good luck. Israel no casino. Israel, we work. We bring the money here to spend here the money.
Here, tourists can indulge to their heart's content, in total freedom, and can even smoke indoors, as it's still allowed. Iriel and his wife Shoshi, an Israeli couple, are regulars, but today, luck is not on their side.
How many money you lose? 3,000. Only casino win.
But we have hope to win.
For you. Okay.
To keep the customer spirits up and encourage them to play more, the casino employs salespeople like Yoam.
Hi, my friend.
Everything is okay?
Yes, everything.
Yes, you need something?
Yes, I need them $1 million.
$1 million. I give you $2 million, my friend. Everything is okay? Good luck. Good luck.
Yoam's job is to entertain them, and so he's not afraid of anything. In between two gambling sessions, he organizes amazing excursions. This afternoon, along with other customers from the casino, Iriel and Shoshi, the two Israelis, have been invited on a quad bike tour. Followed by a surprise, a clay pigeon shooting session high above the city, just 500 meters away from the first houses. In Georgia, it's totally legal.
זוז אתה, זוז, מצטלם, נדבק אליי, זוז.
יש.
יש, רגע.
1, 2. Bagadi.
In Israel, it's, you can't make this. 2 minutes, police and all the security, all the army. Here only in Georgia you make this fun.
Maybe.
Look, down you have apartment, people live. Maybe it's here, not control. Do what you want.
Some people seem comfortable, but Iriel and Shoshi are less so. Like all Israelis, they have completed their military service, but they never really enjoyed guns.
Okay, 1, 2, go.
תעקוב אחריה!
עקה והרע ולא לכיוון.
מה זה חלש? תשמע, אתה צריך להתרגל לדבר הזה, מה? זה כמו שאני אביא אותו לעשות פיצה, הוא לא יודע.
אתה מצלם אותו, את חאלד
עשית צילום שושי, בואי נצלם אותך עם זה.
ריגוש כמו בקזינו?
Yes, no. In casino, very good.
Last year, 2 million visitors came to enjoy Batumi and its casinos. And there should be even more of them in the years to come, as the town expects to open around another 20 establishments. This 180-degree change started 20 years ago, when the country started trying to get closer to the West, and especially to Europe. Many of the Georgian population have a dream that their country will one day become a member of the European Union. To let it be known, they regularly organize large demonstrations.
Everything is set here. Home to Europe and never back to USSR. Never.
Today, in the center of Tbilisi, more than 70,000 people have taken to the street to say no to Moscow and yes to Europe. It all started 10 years after the fall of the USSR in 2003, following a revolution called the Rose Revolution. At that time, the pro-Russia head of state, Eduard Shevardnadze, was accused of electoral fraud. After several weeks of protest, he was overthrown by protesters who symbolically held roses in their hands. Today, 20 years later, those in favor of an alliance with Europe are still in power. And it is one of their representatives, Salomé Zourabichvili, who is president of the country. She's a modern and liberal French Georgian who is at ease in front of the press. This morning, she has rallied her supporters to reaffirm her commitment to the European Union.
La Géorgie, depuis toujours, est tournée vers l'Europe et ne voit de perspective dans cette région compliquée où elle se trouve qu'en Europe. Donc il y a une responsabilité géorgienne de mener à bien toutes les réformes qui feront de nous un vrai pays européen, un pays jusqu'au bout européen, où on sera un peu plus organisé pour les conférences de presse.
Born in France to Georgian immigrant parents, Salomé Zourabichvili took her first diplomatic steps in Paris during the 80s before meeting her incredible fate. In 2003, at the same time as the Rose Revolution, Jacques Chirac named her as the ambassador to France in Georgia. And very quickly, the Georgian president at the time offered her a position as a minister in his government. In 2018, she reached the ultimate achievement in this young democracy. she became the first woman to be elected president. Today, she is keen to maintain a certain simplicity in her life as a stark contrast to the Soviet-era protocol, like her morning walk, which she takes in a park close to the presidential residence with her dog and her fairly discreet bodyguards.
C'est plutôt calme en Géorgie, on peut se balader comme ça dans la rue.
D'abord, on peut se balader comme ça, et ensuite, je pense que c'est nécessaire de changer un peu du style qui était celui des présidents de l'ancienne époque.
C'est-à-dire
C'est-à-dire de bloquer les passages, là où se déplaçait le président, il fallait qu'il n'y ait personne d'autre, et une sécurité absolue. La police ne s'arrête pas pour le président. Ça, c'est particulier.
This morning, Salomé Zourabichvili has a meeting at her residence with the Turkish ambassador. Since the beginning of the war in Ukraine, the threat of conflict looms over Georgia as well, so she holds regular diplomatic meetings to strengthen alliances in the region.
Giving the letter of my president to you, say that I'm perishing the youth. This is mine, it's about food. So I hope you all enjoy it. It's supposed to be present and it's supposed to be used.
And she's trying to maintain a risky balancing act. On the one hand, continuing to get closer to Europe, and on the other, keeping the head of the Kremlin sweet.
Il est clair que l'on évite toute provocation ou confrontation de la Russie.
C'est-à-dire dans quelle mesure? C'est-à-dire qu'est-ce que vous...
Par exemple...
Vous fâchez pas la Russie, par exemple?
Non, c'est pas ne pas fâcher la Russie. C'est ne pas la confronter inutilement, ce qui est deux choses différentes.
The president knows she has to tread carefully because the two countries share a 700-kilometer border. And since Russia doesn't want to lose its influence in the region, it will do anything to win over its former satellite state. Two areas populated by pro-Russian people have already seceded, South Ossetia and Abkhazia. The UN does not officially recognize these two countries, but they declared their independence with the help of the Russian army. And since then, there has been a border between them and Georgia. For many Georgians, this is an unacceptable situation, so they've decided to not let it go. David works year-round as a tour guide, but he has also created an association to denounce what he considers land theft. He regularly patrols the length of the new border that separates South Ossetia and Georgia with his colleagues and the police.
Occupation line we have on the right side. You see this location, I think 200, 300 meters, not more.
His objective is to observe the Russian troops' movements and make sure that the enemy doesn't gain any new territory. He often discovers changes to the border.
Border goes straight vertically up to this hill, and installing this barbed wire here, they gained 80 hectares. It's huge amount, and it did not happen only here, but it happened along the whole occupational line in Georgia.
To have proof of this creeping occupation and be able to speak out about it, David and his teams take photos and use drones.
I think that they don't see now the drone because I have a good height.
South Ossetia is a territory of 4,000 square kilometers, so about as big as a small French department. It has 50,000 inhabitants and is led by an autonomous government. But it remains under the control of Russian forces. Using his drone, David can observe their military bases located less than a kilometer from the border. And quite often he catches the eye of their soldiers behind the barbed wire, like today.
Russian patrol, Russian soldier.
When you see that, what is your feeling?
I know that's my enemies, who one day will take a weapon and go into my country, and I will meet them.
These days, there are no more armed conflicts. The two sides watch each other from a distance. A sort of Cold War has settled between them. But this hasn't always been the case. Everything started just after the fall of the USSR in 1992. Georgia, which was part of the Soviet Union, declared its independence. But the two border regions, Abkhazia and Ossetia, decided to join Russia. A bloody war broke out. Supported by the Russians, the separatists managed to break away. Some years later, in 2008, the Georgians tried once more to reclaim their land with no success. The result being that 30,000 inhabitants had to flee their villages. All those who refused to live under the Russians were relocated in Georgia to housing that had been hastily built by the authorities, like here in Serovani. Nana and her family live in this 60-meter squared house. During the war, the young woman was 28 years old. She worked as a municipal employee in a small town in Ossetia. Overnight, her and her family had to leave their beautiful house, leaving almost everything behind. The war ended over 10 years ago, but Nana and her loved ones are still traumatized. Her mother still has nightmares. Thanks to this small house the authorities gave them, the family has been able to rebuild their lives. Other Georgians haven't wanted to leave their land. Today, they find themselves stuck in Ossetia and discriminated against by the Russians. David, the activist, often helps those who live near the border. This morning, he passes over the barbed wire some provisions that he has brought for Valia, a lonely Georgian who only has a small pension. Her house is in Ossetia, and she refuses to leave, even though she regularly feels threatened. For her, this is an act of resistance.
ჩვენი ბებუ არის ყველასი, მე მგონი, ავიცი, საქართველოში ყოველ შემთხვევაში მინდა რომ ერთ დღეს ვალებებოს მავთუხლართების გარეშე ველაპარაკო. რომ აი თქვენ სახლში ვიქეიფებთ აქ რა. მოვა ეს დღე აუცილებლად.
David won't give up hope, even though he seems doomed to lose this battle. In Ossetia, the pro-Russian government has cut all ties with Georgia. And it's the same in Abkhazia, the other independent state. Over the past few years, Abkhazia has become a top holiday spot for Russians. We have managed to enter the state. After about a half-hour drive from the border, where the buildings still carry scars from the war, the atmosphere changes completely. This is Gagra, a seaside resort that is very popular with Russians for its Soviet palaces and its miniature replica of the Eiffel Tower. It was built at the request of a hotelier who wanted to give his establishment a touch of romance. This setting has attracted Maria, Denis, and their daughter Arina. They've come here from Siberia. They've come to spend a week in the sun in a Soviet-style 4-star hotel hidden among the trees.
Да, кстати, точно. Похоже, в смысле. Так.
Maria and Denis usually spend their holidays in the Mediterranean, but due to the war in Ukraine, they decided to come here, and in the end, it has worked out simpler for them. In Abkhazia, the official language is Russian and the currency is the ruble. On top of that, prices are 20% cheaper here than in their country.
Удобно, что когда с ребенком ты отдыхаешь, можно не думать о том, куда пойти покушать, искать какое-то кафе. На человека, да, вы правильно говорите,
на человека.
5000.
На человека.
С питанием. Здесь, в принципе, все друг с другом вот общаются, дружат.
Дружественная страна.
Дружественная.
Like Maria and Denis, 90% of the hotel guests are Russian. So Rosmak, the hotel manager who is originally from Georgia, takes good care of them. It's almost lunchtime, so he's inspecting the dining hall.
Пожалуйста, можете ложку добавить сюда? Через 5 минут начинается рацион. Придет сюда на рацион более 350 человек. Каждый голоден, и каждый от нас ждет чего-то нового. Поэтому мы всегда пытаемся удивить. Кондитерка, собственные компоты, производство, все здесь на месте.
Today, the manager has also asked the waitstaff to celebrate Nadyeja's 57th birthday. She's from Moscow and is on holiday with her husband. This special attention makes the retired couple happy. Like many Russians, they feel at home here.
Здесь, это же наша страна, мы же одно целое были в свое время, поэтому, может быть, и... я даже не раздумаю, я сразу скажу, что придет время, и все страны, которые все рассоединились, воссоединятся в свое время, да, придет время.
And the hotel manager Rosmak isn't going to contradict her. Although he's originally from Georgia, he doesn't hide his pro-Russian position. In fact, he's taken on double nationality, a right which has been given to all Abkhazians.
В немецком клатче лежит. Надеюсь, что он здесь. Да? Российский паспорт. Лена. Конечно, говорят, родной язык тот, на котором ты думаешь. Вот я думаю на русском языке. Но когда мы болеем за футбол, мы говорим там «наши». Если сборная России, всегда Россия это была как бы, да, что-то родное, это как вторая родина.
Like Rosmak, the people of Abkhazia have definitively turned their back on Georgia. They see their future with Russia. However, Georgians see this situation as an illegal occupation of their land. And today, the threat doesn't just come from outside the country. Even within Georgia, militant conservatives dream of a future beside Russia. Each year, they organize spectacular demonstrations in the capital, Tbilisi. To show their anger, these campaigners, who are mostly members of the Georgian extreme right, burn European and NATO flags in front of journalists. They all completely reject Western values and attack symbols of these values, like sexual freedom. Once they're done with the European flags, they move on to the LGBT movement flags. Georgia decriminalized homosexuality 20 years ago, but within this still very conservative society, homophobic discourse still gets a favorable response, and hate speech isn't prohibited. Today, representatives of the Orthodox Church, which is close to Moscow, are whipping the crowd into a frenzy. The statements that they're loudly shouting would be prohibited in France.
ლიბერალური დასავლეთი ეწევა ახალი ადამიანის გამოყვანა ჩვენთან. ამას ქვია ან თავად უნდა გააპიდარასტო ქვეყანა, ან ტოლერანტი უნდა გახადონ პიდარასტობის მიმართ. და ლიბერალურ პიდარასტულ იმპერიასაც დავასწრობთ ყუბოზე ლურსმანს და დავაჭედეთ. ჩვენ დავრჩებთ ლურსმანს.
This hate speech often results in violent outbursts. Last year, during a similar demonstration, extreme right campaigners ransacked the offices of the local LGBT movement before lashing out at Georgian journalists who were covering the event. One of them, this man who had been beaten up, died from his injuries a few hours later. Behind these often violent demonstrations is a man that many applaud. Konstantin Morgoshia, a 40-year-old businessman who made his money in real estate and who has become one of the leaders of Georgia's extreme right. Konstantin Morgoshia has created his own political party, the Conservative Movement, built on the foundations of anti-Western hatred.
ევროპისთვის ისეთი ევროპა, სადაც ჩვენ ქართველები მათ უნდივართ, ისეთები, სადაც აქ გეი პრაიდები ჩატარდება, უზნეობის მარშები ჩატარდება და სადღაც.
In Georgia, Konstantin Morgoshia boasts about having more than 80,000 campaigners and 10 times as many supporters. He has also an impressive weapon when it comes to spreading his ideas around the country. A television channel that he finances himself, called Alt-Info. He regularly appears on the channel to discuss his anti-European thoughts. For the moment, these pro-Russian extreme right movements represent 20% of Georgia's population. But this hateful rhetoric is spreading among the most disadvantaged. And in Georgia, poverty affects almost 1/3 of the population. Far away from the capital and any large tourist areas, unemployment comes close to 40% at times, and even many of those Georgians with a job don't have enough to live a decent life. This is how it is in Chiatura, in the center of the country. Here, time seems to have stood still since the Soviet era. Much of their infrastructure and many buildings are falling into ruin. The community here survives thanks to the manganese quarries that surround the town. This mineral is used to make steel. It's 9 a.m. and Kara is about to start his shift. He has worked at this quarry for 20 years in buildings that haven't been renovated since the beginning of the 20th century. Hara and his team are tasked with filling up these wagons with the soil that has been extracted by their colleagues, as it contains manganese. They load up to 350 tons per day. During the Soviet era, 50% of the world's manganese production came from this quarry, and more than 10,000 workers extracted this black gold, sometimes risking their lives to do so. These days, the mineral is running out. So certain parts of the operations have been completely abandoned, and there are only 4,000 workers left. Kara works more than 40 hours a week. He doesn't wear a helmet or workman's boots. The health and safety measures here are practically non-existent. But this family man doesn't have much choice, as jobs in Chiatura are few and far between. Kara makes 300 euros a month from this job, which is half the average salary in Georgia. This money enables him to survive but not lead a good life, so he has had to take on a second job. Each evening, he meets his wife Eliso at the small grocery store that they've opened together. Before running their business, Eliso was a nurse, but that only made her 70 euros per month. In total, Kara and Eliso work 15 hours a day, 7 days a week. Combined with his income from the quarry, the profits from the business enable them to make 800 euros between the two of them per month. They use this to support their family. The couple live in a rundown building in the city center, which was built 50 years ago for quarry workers when Georgia was still part of the Soviet Empire. When he has his hands full, Kara takes the lift, and here that's a luxury, as you have to pay to use it, as is common in Georgia. At the end of the month, going up and down in the lift can cost him more than 10 euros. They both live with Kara, as his son has left to earn money in France. He entered the country on a simple tourist visa and works illegally in a restaurant.
ძალიან გამიჭირდა რომ წავიდა, მაგრამ რას ვიზავ? ესეთია. საქართველოში არ გვაქვს ისეთი პირობები, რომ არ წასულიყო. არ არის ისეთი ანაზღაურება, რომ ვიმუშაოთ ახალგაზრდება, არ არის სამწუხაროდ, რომ ოჯახი ვიარსებოთ, ესე ვთქვათ.
Mariam worries about him living illegally thousands of miles from Georgia, but each month he sends her some money. This additional income on top of her salary as a preschool assistant means she can put some money into savings so that they can move into a place of their own one day. Until then, the whole family squeezes into this 60 square meter apartment. Scant comfort, but thanks to this solidarity, Kara and his loved ones manage to get by. On average, every year 100,000 Georgians leave the country, just like Kara and Eliso's son, and head to Europe or North America in the hope of finding a better future. To stop this emigration and develop the countryside, Georgian authorities are promoting ecotourism. Georgia has a bit of a hidden treasure in its fairly untouched and exceptionally beautiful scenery. Thousands of hectares of forest and mountains and no fewer than 20 national parks cover a quarter of the country.
Ça se finit à quatre pattes. Il y a intérêt à ce que ce soit beau là-haut.
That's what drew Paul and Inez, a young Parisian couple, to Georgia. They decided to spend 2 weeks visiting the country, particularly trekking in the Caucasus mountains.
Si tu te lâches, en fait, je pense qu'on te retrouve en bas dans le glacier, quoi.
This mountain range stretching from Turkey to Russia is home to the highest summits in Europe. They peak at 5,000 meters of altitude.
On a l'impression d'être seul au monde des fois, donc ça c'est vraiment chouette, quoi. Ça
ouais,
change.
Ouais. Ça change des sentiers de grande randonnée, style en France ou dans les Pyrénées, par exemple, il y a beaucoup de monde, quoi, en fait. Tu t'es jamais tranquille. Des fois, tu veux pique-niquer, il y a quelqu'un à côté. Là, non, là, c'est... T'es seul et tu te dis, même s'il m'arrive quelque chose, comment on va faire, quoi, sur le trajet.
Paul couldn't have said it better. The Caucasus can also be very dangerous. And he'll realize it even more when he tries to cross this fast-flowing river.
C'est bon.
Là, du coup, c'est le moment compliqué.
Ah non, moi ça me stresse trop, je vais me faire embarquer.
Non, c'est pas trop profond. C'est juste qu'il y a beaucoup de courant, en fait.
Beaucoup de courant et qu'elle est jolie. Oh non, mais moi je veux pas voir ça.
Yeah.
Non, mais moi c'est mort, j'y vais pas.
Paul came within an inch of disaster, and Inez is terrified. But she's in luck, as a few moments later, she sees a man with a horse. He's a local who knows these dangerous waters well and has set up a business.
Ah là là. Merci le cheval.
For 10 euros per person, he transports tourists across the river.
Putain, la galère.
The couple are going to regain their composure in a guest house a few kilometers away.
Gamarjoba, we have a reservation for two. Attention la tête.
Paul and Inez have reserved a room at an unbeatable price.
On fait comme d'hab, je prends la fenêtre.
Ouais, parce que moi je prends des bêtes.
Pour ça, c'est 70 gels, donc ça nous fait, ça doit faire 25-30 euros, je pense. Ouais, 25 euros la nuit, avec les petits-déj inclus, donc voilà.
In total, their 4 days of hiking will cost them less than 200 euros, including accommodation and food. In these rural areas, the arrival of tourists is a godsend, because without them, the locals couldn't survive. Lots of the villages here are falling into ruin, like this one with the fortified towers. Before, they were used to watch enemies coming from afar, but today they're falling apart. This is where Nato lives with her husband Jora. The couple only have a small piece of land and a few animals, like these cows.
Каждое утро и вечером. Вот это коровы даю, потом сыр делаю, потом сулгуни.
This business isn't enough to live on, so, like most of their neighbors, they benefit from the ecotourism that is developing in the area. They've set up a guest house.
Да, картошку тоже есть, ну, не хватает. За деньги, за бизнес.
Each year, the couple welcomes almost 500 holiday makers. From this, they make around 5,000 euros, which is around the average salary in Georgia. This business also enables Irakli, their son, to earn a bit of money. He left the family home to study marketing in the capital city, Tbilisi. But in the summer, he comes home to give his parents a hand.
It's the summer times, it's nice because there is some more people or something. After summer, it's very difficult because make nothing here. Just work, one work, it's just the cows and something like that. This is difficult here and also very cold here.
For the student, this little job is also an opportunity to reconnect with his traditions. This morning, he's traveling a few kilometers with his father to celebrate the festival of St. George, the patron saint of Georgia.
Traditional, it's coming like 6 centuries ago. It's like a boys' traditional days like this.
In these remote areas, society is still very patriarchal. The worship of men lives on strongly. The man is the one who must provide for his family, so all couples want to have boys, and this festival is celebrated in their honor. Around this little chapel in the middle of the mountains, the villagers have prepared a big barbecue and organized traditional activities like this weightlifting competition with stone. This stone weighs more than 150 kilograms. Participants must lift it and keep it in the air for as long as possible.
Молодые ребята мерут силу, который больше лучше возьмет. Чтобы наше село было сильным.
Jora and his son Irakli haven't come for this show of strength, though. They've come to pray in the little chapel and ask their saint for boys. Irakli is engaged. He wants to get married soon and hopes to have a son.
Boy, it's like more important also. Boys are its first name and your name are its all the time, all the life.
Even though Irakli has led the life of a modern city dweller in Tbilisi, he is still bound to his traditions. In Georgia, their traditions are long-lasting, but these days the country's people have their eyes resolutely set on the West, and authorities have an active policy to promote the equality of the sexes, which is necessary to one day potentially be able to join the European Union.